just go through your kind of life, honestly, because there will be anecdotes in there that I think will help um, me and the listeners to understand kind of the experience as far as what it's like. So, as far as what it's like there. So we were talking before. So you're Burundian, correct?
Yes, Burundi.
Okay. So, but in your so where does the Tanzania part fit in, right? Because if you're Burundian, you tell like I've heard both. So can you give us some background on kind of where you were born and kind of how that connection plays out?
Yeah, so I was born in Tanzania, but I'll be glad to tell you that I am Burundian. That is who I am, and the reason why I was born in Tanzania was because I was born in a refugee camp due to there was a lot of political chaos that happened between the Hutu and Tutsi tribe in Burundi and Rwanda, and that created a lot of civil war and political unrest in both countries. So with that, it would often be we had a Hutu or a Tutsi president, and the majority was Hutu. So Hutus thinking, why should a minority tribe be ruling us? And as you can guess, another a civil war broke out, and just that kind of went back and forth to where the country was deemed quite unsafe to live. So you have people fleeing to neighboring countries such as DRC, which Democratic Republic of Congo, which is what was Zaire back in the day. Uganda, you have some fleeing to Kenya and others like my family that flee to Tanzania. So just a little bit of how I ended up being in the refugee camp in
Mm.
Tanzania.
That's interesting. That I didn't realize it was the Hutu and the Tutsi because I think people have seen Hotel Rwanda and are at least somewhat familiar with that story. I wrote a paper on that in college, but I didn't realize it was very specific to the events of the movie. It was kind of a movie-ish class, and that was the movie that I picked. Um, but I didn't realize that it had spread into Burundi and some of the neighboring countries. Did it affect where else did it affect besides Rwanda and Burundi?
So I mean, it's just primarily those two because if you know those two countries used to be one, or when they were known as Burundi, Rwanda. That was before the Belgian came in and colonized the country.
Hmm.
And with that, after with colonizers, they went in there to show provide them the language French. That's how Burundi and Rwanda both speak French
Mm.
because of Belgium, and also kind of put my point put their way of life into those people, and to the sense where I guess the Belgian picked the Tutsi as a superior tribe,
Hmm.
and obviously that was going to create tension regardless because the Tutsi were the minority, um,
Sure.
and the Hutus were a majority. It's also fair to mention that there's also a third tribe in that area that was called the Twa, and those were kind of often put into the side in the history books, but it's an important group of people that deserve recognition. So pretty much after Rwanda got independence from the Belgian, they went ahead and separated to Burundi and then Rwanda,
Hmm.
and started their own democratic elections, or something you want to call it, because beforehand they had just a king, but now it was not. Once they separated, they started their own democratic elections,
Right.
and that's when everything kind of uh, went down, and a lot of people were killed, unfortunately.
Yeah. So your parents were in the conflict, I guess, or not in, so to speak, but it was around
In the
them.
conflict per se.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and they went to Tanzania to the refugee camp, right?
Yes,
And that's where you were born.
yes,
So the camp was run by UNICEF, I'm guessing.
yeah. It was run by UNICEF.
Okay, so what was life like in the camp for you? Because just like give some background on what it's like to live in a refugee camp like that. Kind of how the schools are, who runs the schools, how the living spaces were. Did you guys have enough resources, food, water, that sort of thing?
Mhm. So yeah, life in the camp was pretty much difficult, and it was really there. You kind of have to hold on to something, whether you are a person of faith or whatever it was. For me, I'm a Christian, so faith is all that I had in the sense that there will be some days where it will be difficult. Things that like water, wouldn't always come by. So that meant we had to walk a mile to barefoot
Mhm.
just to get clean water. And that was something we did like on a weekly basis per se.
Right.
In terms of school, we had to walk school again. That's a mile or two away, and for at that point we don't really have shoes per se. So you're walking barefoot. Not
Hmm.
to mention the African sun, the heat is
Yeah.
beating you down. So there were some points you're running because you want to get the destination so faster, so that way you don't your feet is not full of blisters.
Right.
In terms of life in schools, it was as if we were back home in Burundi. So they were taught by Burundians, and we were taught French and Kirundi. Um, the main difference it wasn't, you didn't have an option of failing. It was either you pass the class or you get your ass whooped. In the sense that, let's say the teacher was like, okay, for this test, all of you have to get an A. 90% or higher, and that's it. You
Hmm.
get lower than that, you get your ass whooped. So I was was relatively smart, so I often would get my grades up like that. But
Hmm.
those who didn't get a grade, it means you got your ass whooped. So that mentality of just failing wasn't an option. It was, I can pass and be safe, or I can fail and get my ass whooped. And
Yeah.
that ass whooping, didn't just happen at school. Once you got home, your parents found out, like, hey, you failed this class. What's up with that? That's another ass whooping.
Yeah.
It was safe to just, study and know your shit before
Hmm.
getting ass whooping.
So the schools weren't, they were local then. They weren't ran by unit. They weren't ran by the camp.
They were ran by the camp. So the funny thing about the whole camp was we were in Tanzania,
Hmm.
but the Tanzanian government didn't really want to do anything with us. It was pretty much a little piece of Burundi to
Hmm.
Tanzania, and we were kind of secluded in that. We were kind of on our own per se, with UNICEF helping us out with a lot. Was providing us food and other resources. They really UNICEF was really what can help us out.